That's what's going on. Yo, what's up, guys? Can you guys hear me okay? Yeah, wow. Ooh. Danette, I thought I was talking to you, but I don't know if I was because I forgot to put the camera up. Let me see if I can just... Yeah, do you have a cold? I have a cold. It's the worst. Cecilia Nieves. Good evening. How are you? Exeter, California in the house? Amazing. Yeah. SML, what's up? Great to see you. What's going on? I can't see. Are you Stay Tuned Now on NBC News Now? Timothy, that's exactly what we're doing. Hello, what's new? Oh, so much stuff is new. Okay, what's going on here? Where should we start? You guys want to start with the good stuff? Let's always start with the good news, even though on our show it's the complete opposite. We always start with the bad, go backwards. Good news, at the end of our show today, we're going to be talking about 3i Atlas. Dr. Avi Loeb is on with us once more, and he is going to share the 15th anomaly in this crazy saga of this interstellar object, the third interstellar object we've ever detected. And tomorrow night, or actually tomorrow morning, early, the 19th is going to be the closest this thing comes to Earth, but it's still like 170 million miles away, so pretty far. So that's going to be interesting. And then we're talking to my old mayor in Albuquerque, in Burque, Tim Keller. I'm trying to get some spoilers from him about Pluribus. I don't know if you guys are watching Pluribus. I love it. Makes me homesick. And I want to know if he's the one that signed off on shutting down like I-25 and I-40 at the same time in the middle of Albuquerque. We'll see. Very risky political move. Wait, hold on. This isn't scrolling. Santiago, Chile? No way! Jime, Max, great to meet you. Hello, Jones, 1736. Hello from Buffalo, New York. Hi. We're doing pretty good. Let's see here. Okay, so that's the back half of the show. You probably want to know what's going to happen at the top. We are monitoring for some breaking news here. It sounds like there may be some big developments in the Brown shooting, that mass shooting that happened at Brown University. And so police are saying that they now have identified a new person of interest. However, they are not releasing the identity of that person of interest. And, you know, there was an MIT professor who was shot and killed like 50 miles away. Apparently, they think that they're looking into the possibility that there is a link there, investigators. And that link, at least the stuff that we know about, may revolve around the rental car. They match the same description. Oh, let's take a look at the walls here. All right, hold on real fast. Okay, person of interest, campus security, and then investigation delays. Okay, cool. Cool, got it, and then I'll walk back. Okay, perfect, thank you. All right, that B to G, okay. All right, back to YouTube show. That is Mr. Mancini. He is in the control room, and he is the one that's kind of walking me through this. Lisa is feeling under the weather. I don't know who else said that they were feeling like they have the sniffles, but whoa. Any news about Stranger Things? Not that I've seen. BPLX, oh my goodness. This is why we can't have nice things, guys. All right, let's see what else. Thank you so much, my man. Just got our little tea here. And then we are going to talk about the latest batch of Epstein photos that was released. I don't know if you guys have seen these, but another tranche that was released by the House Oversight Committee. This is different than the photos that were released, the files that are supposed to be released tomorrow by the DOJ. Sorry, guys. I gotta blow my nose because the show's about to start. So yeah, love Jimmy Fallon. I'm gonna mute it. I'm probably gonna go off camera. You don't want to. Okay, I'm back. Sorry, you didn't see that. Anyway, yeah, who else has a cold out there? It's the season. I've got kids at home. They are petri dishes. Little vectors. It is now 50 seconds before our showtime. So, what are you watching on? I'm watching on YouTube, right? Is TikTok up? I don't know if TikTok's up. All right, let's see here. Should we get flagged again? TikTok keeps flagging us for some reason. I don't know what the deal is. There we go. Yeah, TikTok keeps striking us down, and I think it's because they don't want to talk about some of these news stories that we talk about, so we'll see what happens. Are you guys watching on TikTok or YouTube? Starting here?
Yep.
All right, 15 seconds.
Is that open?
Hey, have a good show, everybody. See you in a bit. All right, I'm gonna do this thing. Have a good show. Hey guys, it's Gotti Schwartz, and tonight police say they have ID'd a new person of interest in the Brown University mass shooting. We've got a live report. And is there a link between that deadly shooting and the murder of an MIT professor? Detectives say they are trying to find out. And a fiery plane crash in North Carolina has killed former NASCAR driver Greg Biffle along with his wife and 2 kids. Plus, House Democrats have just released a batch of new pictures from the Jeffrey Epstein estate. But why are these particular photos being released now, 24 hours before the Justice Department is supposed to release all their Epstein files? And our favorite interstellar object, 3I Atlas, is about to make its closest approach to Earth. But what kind of view are we going to have with this thing like 170 million miles away in space? And does Dr. Avi Loeb still think it might be artificial? That's coming up. Hey there, we are coming on the air tonight with some big developments in the Brown University shooting. Police now say they have identified a new person of interest, but as of right now, they won't say who it is. Also, the investigators say that they are looking into a possible connection between the Brown shooting and the killing of an MIT professor. Now, all of this is still very, very preliminary, but NBC has learned that detectives are looking into whether the same rental car spotted at Brown University around the time of the shooting was also matching the description of one that was near the home of an MIT professor who was gunned down on Monday, 2 days after the Brown shooting. That professor was the head of MIT's Plasma Science and Fusion Center. Still, so many unanswered questions tonight are looming. For starters, who is this person of interest in the Brown shooting? How were they identified, and how were they connected to all of this if the suspect is still outstanding, as we understand it? Also, as you can imagine, with the gunman or the gunmen still out there, both of these shootings, I mean, there are growing concerns over campus security, and there are questions that remain. If there was this early focus on a different person of interest who was later released, they're wondering if that might have delayed the investigation. Let's get straight over to NBC News correspondent Valerie Castro, who is following all these late developments for us. Valerie, I mean, this all gets very confusing very quickly. The person of interest here, do we know who that might be or when we might get an answer there?
Hey, Gotti, still so many unanswered questions at this point, and as you know, the information has been very slow to trickle out, including information about this person of interest. It does seem as though the person of interest is the person in the video that was released a few days ago, the man seen walking around the neighborhood near the campus hours before the shooting. 3 law enforcement sources now tell NBC News that investigators have identified who that person is, though that information at this point has not been released to the public. So again, very little information still about who this person of interest is that investigators have now identified.
Meanwhile, police in Massachusetts, they were looking for that specific vehicle connected to the MIT shooting, a gray vehicle, and we're seeing conflicting reports. Did they just find it?
That is still unclear, although there is a large law enforcement presence in Salem, New Hampshire. There are officers there on the scene. It appears to be some sort of storage unit, and we can confirm. There you see the pictures coming in from helicopter from the local NBC affiliate. Again, a large law enforcement presence there. We are told it is connected in some way to this investigation. Exactly how, it is unclear. There was some information that potentially the rental car that they were looking for could be there on the scene, although that has not been confirmed. We were waiting for a press conference to happen earlier this afternoon in hopes that there would be more information that was released. That has been put on hold for the time being. Again, in the meantime, we have now learned that there is this large law enforcement presence in Salem, New Hampshire.
Yeah, and it looks like that's a live shot of the press conference that is supposed to start any minute now. Hopefully we'll get some answers, praying that there's some resolution here. In the meantime, have they beefed up security at 2 campuses now?
That's right, at both MIT and at Brown University, though keep in mind, it is just a few days before the holidays. There aren't very many students, if any, left on campus, so the campus is pretty much empty. But with this person or persons still out there, the community is still very unnerved, still worried about any developments in this case. Take a listen to what one student said about this issue.
I think for the first few days, I've just been in a state of shock. It was hard for me to focus, kind of do like daily stuff, and I've just been kind of, in my home, kind of checking the news every day. It feels really quiet now on campus, and it's just very eerie.
Again, students still on edge, as you can imagine, even though they aren't on campus specifically. Many live around the campus, around the neighborhood where that person of interest was seen walking just hours before the shooting. So again, we are still waiting to learn any new developments as we've been awaiting that press conference for most of the afternoon, in fact. So hopefully there could be some more information within the next hour or so. Gotti?
Yeah, we'll stay tuned for that. Valerie Castro, thanks so much. And let's bring in NBC News law enforcement analyst Jim Cavanaugh for a little bit more. Jim, I mean, both of these cases, the clock is ticking. Maybe, potentially, there's a big break in the case here, and that's what, I don't know, this press conference might be about. But, I mean, with 6 days gone by, if these two are related, like, does a trail go cold in this day and age?
Well, sure, it goes cold, but as you pick up new leads, because you got all these agents and detectives out there, and you're leveraging the public's help, you get some tips, you get some information. And when you have multiple crimes, if they're linked, we're not sure if they are, but if they're linked, and you get multiple crimes, you get new information from the next crime scene. And often that is what leads to the capture of the criminal. Many examples of that I've had on bombing cases. We've had a few bombs and we don't really know who the suspect is, and then we have another 4th bomb, and sure enough we get a witness and a lead, and which will solve all the bombs or murders. So yes, if they're linked, they may be picking up leads from Massachusetts that connect in and leverage their case in Brown. So we need to hear what the commanders say if they'll get on the press conference. And oftentimes, Gotti, what they can do is they can find some violation, connected to something that happened in Massachusetts, for example, on a suspect. They have somebody's name, and they might have a violation, a stolen car or a gun violation. You can get a warrant for that. And you get a warrant, it doesn't have to be for the murder or even 2 murders or both murders, but a warrant for something. That's how we caught the DC snipers. When we identified them, we obtained, ATF firearms warrants for them because Mohammed was previously convicted of domestic violence, and the juvenile, we got a warrant for being a material witness. Then we put those out in a bolo. They're wanted by the Sniper Task Force for these firearms violations and material witness warrant, and that's how we caught them. So if you get a warrant for something, it gives you a lot of strength to put it out, even if it's not a warrant for, capital murder. So you got the commanders got to be smart and see what they're looking and what they're making to connect. A lot of things connect, but can you rise to the level of probable cause where you can, link some forensics at either scene? If they're linked, we don't know yet. And then, leverage that for some type of warrant where you can identify someone and then put the lookout on for them. Because then you really have a manhunt, Gotti. Right now, what you have in this investigation, try and identify killer or killers at 2 different homicides.
Jim, I wanted to ask you about something. I mean, online, there's a lot of internet sleuths that are convinced that they know who did this. And there has been a lot of confusion about the whole person of interest thing. They did have somebody early on. They let them go. Does that complicate a case like this?
Well, it does sometimes. I was on the bombing case on Eric Rudolph when, Richard Jewell was picked up and, sort of persecuted as a suspect when, a lot of us dismissed him early on as not a good lead. A lot of people come up and look like they're responsible for the crime at hand because things can match. You know, when people say, oh, I don't believe in coincidences, well, when you investigate major cases, there's lots of coincidences because we, as people, you know, frequent the same region of the country. We have similar habits. We can drive similar cars, even possess similar guns. There's a lot of similarities in people, whether you want to believe it or not. When you get those as leads, what you have to do is knock it back, Gotti, to a foundation of facts. Does this gun that this guy have match the bullet at the murder scene or not? You know, that's where you got to begin. It's hardcore forensic police work. Does this guy on the video we see here really look like the killer? And I used to tell the agents and detectives when they'd come up to the command post with a lead like you're describing, we think this guy's the killer, the bomber, the sniper, whatever, I would say, get a couple of other agents and say, you come and you prove it ain't him. You prove it's not the guy. And they say, what do you mean? I said, you work to prove it's not the guy. And then they'd go out, you know, get his alibi. So he said he worked at the factory and, you know, pull the video from the factory floor. And sure enough, when the bomb was planted, the guy's working on the factory floor and here's a video. So you know it's not him, and then you can eliminate him, even though some things look similar. So we're in that stage now, but the commanders, Gotti, know a lot more than we know. Of course, they're way ahead of us. They're starting to put some things together. What'll be big here is if they have a specific identity or even a warrant for somebody, and they know who a person is in either case.
Yeah, let's hope that this all comes to a resolution very soon, but it is so creepy to see that video of the suspect that we think might still be outstanding. Jim Cavanaugh, thank you so much. And breaking tonight, former NASCAR driver Greg Biffle has been killed in a plane crash in North Carolina. Now, the FAA says the Cessna jet crashed earlier today at an airport about 45 minutes north of Charlotte, and police have confirmed that 7 people on board died in that crash. That includes his wife, his 2 kids. A Biffle family friend says that they were on their way to Florida to visit him. Kathy Park is in Statesville. Kathy, what's the latest that you're hearing from investigators here?
Yeah, Gotti, it certainly is a tragic and heartbreaking day here in Statesville, North Carolina. We are right by the regional airport where this crash happened early this morning, shortly after 10 o'clock this morning. And right now, there is still that we don't know. We don't have a cause, but we do know NTSB investigators are headed to the scene right now. They will be reviewing everything from the physical evidence, the maintenance records, and also the weather at the time of the crash. As you mentioned, there were 7 people on board this private Cessna jet, including Greg Biffle, the former NASCAR driver, and his immediate family, as well as 3 other individuals. We do know he had a pilot's license, but it is unclear who was flying the aircraft. All of this obviously will be part of the larger investigation. And Gotti, it is also worth noting that there is a golf course adjacent to this regional airport, and there were several eyewitnesses who actually saw this play out in real time. One individual is saying that he saw the aircraft flying dangerously low, actually clipping some of the treetops, and then moments later saw the crash, and he was close enough where he said he could actually feel the heat emitting from this crash site. But obviously a tragic day, and the news is spreading quickly throughout North Carolina, also among the motorsports community, which has such a deep hold here in the state, Gotti.
Yeah, I mean, it is so heartbreaking to see. And the weather in that video, it does look overcast. It looks like it might be raining. I know it's still very, very early on, but like, is there anything about the weather at that time that raises flags?
Yeah, so initial reports actually indicate that it was raining lightly. Also, there was a thick fog that kind of hung over this area, and it's actually comparable to what we are experiencing right now. The rain hasn't let up, and obviously, Gotti, with NTSB investigators headed this way, this will be part of that investigation as they kind of push ahead.
Yeah, prayers go out to the family. Kathy Park, thank you so much. And we are just one day away from the deadline for the DOJ to release all of the Epstein files. But while we wait, earlier today, House Democrats, they released dozens more photos apparently in their possession right now. Keep in mind, we don't know anything about the context of these pictures, nor do we know why the House Dems are releasing them right now. But they do include more shots of Epstein with powerful men. Looks like Woody Allen, philosopher Noam Chomsky, New York Times journalist David Brooks as well on what looks like a private jet. And then there were all of these other pictures, words on some of somebody's body. These pictures showed different passages from the novel Lolita written on a foot, written on somebody's back. Lolita is a novel about a grown man who is obsessed and sexually abuses a 12-year-old girl. And let's bring in NBC News Chief Capitol Hill correspondent Ryan Nobles. Ryan, we see these images, but there's always like almost no context. What do we take away from this?
About 5.5.
Well, what the members of the Democrats of the House Oversight Committee tell me is that they also don't have context when they receive these photos. They came in a massive batch of 95,000 different photos from the Epstein estate, and they are trying to be as transparent as possible as they can with this process. So when they get them in, they sift through them, they look at the ones that they think perhaps would have the most public interest, and they release them. They say there are still thousands of other photos that they're still going through, including some that are sexually explicit and also involve some of the survivors and victims of the Epstein controversy. So they're being very careful with what they pick and choose to release to the public. But yeah, there is a lot of kind of fill in the blanks that's left for a lot of us that get this information without a whole lot of information connected to it to explain why.
So sexually explicit content, but does it sound like any of it is of like very clear criminal wrongdoing?
So that part remains an open question. So far, the material that they've released up until this point has not demonstrated any sort of criminal wrongdoing, at least explicitly. There could potentially be the implication of wrongdoing, but there's nothing in there to this point that would then open up another investigation by a criminal law enforcement agency. Now, of the content that they still have, that they're still sifting through, could that possibly be raised as an issue? We don't know that quite yet. But there is also the possibility, Gotti, and that also extends to the release that we're expecting from the Department of Justice tomorrow, that the information could come out, the public could sift through it, and someone might have their memory jogged or might be able to connect a missing dot between something that investigators looked into but weren't actually able to quite nail down 10, 15 years ago. So that's part of the reason that members of Congress, those who are very deeply passionate about the Epstein controversy, believe this information needs to be out for everyone to see.
Now, speaking of which, tomorrow, that's the big deadline for the DOJ to release the quote-unquote Epstein files, like the mother lode here in its entirety, right? So what's the latest on that front? Do lawmakers think that the DOJ is going to completely comply here?
3.5.
Well, it really depends on who you talk to, Gotti. The two lawmakers that wrote the law, Tom Massey of Kentucky and Ro Khanna of California, they both believe that the Department of Justice has no choice but to comply and that there's a lot of safeguards in place that will force them to do so. Tom Massey even said in a video tonight that he'll be able to tell within a couple of hours if the Department of Justice isn't in full compliance. But there is a real concern, particularly among Democrats, that this Department of Justice, that is Donald Trump's Department of Justice, will continue to stand in the way of full transparency. Listen to what Hakeem Jeffries, the Democratic minority leader, said today.
Based on my conversations with some of the top Democrats who've been working on this matter related to full and complete disclosure of the Epstein files, we do expect compliance. But if the Department of Justice does not comply with what is federal law at this point, there will be strong bipartisan pushback.
And so one of the things I think we've seen with this administration, Gotti, is a willingness to really push the edges of what is legal and illegal. And it tends to be that they only fully comply if there's some sort of consequence on the other end here. So one of the things I've been asking over and over again is if the Department of Justice just says, we're not going to give you everything, or we've given you everything we've got, How do they be forced to comply? And what we're told is, first of all, there are a number of career prosecutors and investigators that are also going to have access to this material. There remains the possibility of whistleblowers coming forward. But perhaps the biggest pressure point is that this administration isn't going to be around forever, and there's no statute of limitations on this law. So if they don't comply, there could be repercussions in the future.
Interesting, and this might be totally off base, so feel free to rein me in here. But when it sounds like Thomas Massie and others are saying that they'll know within a few hours, does the federal government know what Congress has in the release from the Epstein estate, and vice versa? Does Congress know what's in these files? Like, could there be things that are not released that Congress has been holding back, as you just mentioned, and they're like, no, we know you have this thing, you need to put it forward? Or are both of those things completely separate?
Well, anything that Congress has delivered or produced up until this point is completely separate from the Department of Justice. That comes from the Epstein estate. But I think what these members of Congress are talking about specifically is that they know the contours of these investigations. They know the type of material that has been collected. They know the types of interviews that have been done. And they've also spent a lot of time talking to the survivors and the victims who were party to some of these investigations. And those survivors and victims have said, if we don't see this, if we don't see this interview, if we don't see this photo, if we don't see this deposition, that means that they're not giving you everything. So it's not specifically that they'll have some sort of gotcha moment after the fact. It's more kind of a broad understanding as to what the Department of Justice has collected over the past 3 decades, and a willingness to be able to match that up with their expectations. And if they don't come through, they're willing to call the DOJ on that.
Very interesting. We'll see what happens tomorrow. NBC's Ryan Nobles. Ryan, thank you. And more breaking news that we are following tonight, this time about TikTok. We've just learned they signed a joint venture deal. That means that they would sell its U.S. version to a team of American investors. All of it comes after a year-long legal saga, which even included that brief shutdown of the app in the United States, if you remember that. NBC's Savannah Sellers has the details.
Hey, Gotti, so this is big news because after years of drama, right, we finally have some details that, in theory, should keep TikTok operational in the United States. So we got all this information because we obtained this memo that was sent to TikTok employees by the CEO today announcing this new joint venture. It's called TikTok USDS Joint Venture LLC, and it gives us some details about who exactly is going to be involved here to take some of that ownership away from TikTok's parent company that is Chinese, ByteDance. That's been the big concern here. So here are the major investors. There's 3 of them that we know so far: Oracle, Silver Lake, and MGX. They're each going to have a 15% stake in this company. Another 30%, though, is going to be existing investors of ByteDance, that parent company. And then 19.1%, just under 20%, just under that legal threshold, will remain with ByteDance. So there are big questions here about how we get to that sort of 50% U.S. ownership, and we're still waiting on a lot of that list. What is of note here, though, is this national security concern that was the big question. The company says that they're going to have this trusted security partner to make sure that they are in compliance on that front. And then after sort of getting audited, Larry Ellison's Oracle, one of those 15% owners, will take over that and make sure that it is in compliance with the law and that data security is ensured. They also say that this deal should close on January 22nd, so pretty soon here. Big question, of course, for people at home: what does this mean for a user of TikTok? It should, in theory, mean no change, because they're saying that this makes them compliant with the law and therefore operating business as usual. But there are still a lot of questions. Sky, back to you.
Savannah Sellers, thank you so much. And don't go anywhere. Up next, we are keeping an eye on the conflict between the U.S. and Venezuela as the White House threatens that ship blockade. A look at the potential impacts of that. Plus, newly minted NASA Administrator Jared Isaacman speaking with NBC's Tom Costello today, what he is saying about his vision for the future of NASA. What's up, everybody? All right, we're back. I was trying to follow along with some of what you guys were saying. And then we had somebody from Salem. Just wanted to, Layla, are you good? Are you okay? I'm hoping that things are resolved. Again, we don't have confirmation from police as to what's happening out there. They have surrounded that car for quite some time, and we've been watching the chopper video, and it seemed like they were super high alert at the beginning. But I'm not sure if that's still the case, because they've been on scene for a long time. So maybe maybe we'll get some news here soon.
90.
Larry Ellison, interesting. Jamie, Oracle stock, interesting. I'll have to check that. SML, big fan of you too. Hopefully they'll change the TikTok interface. Yeah, right? Let's see. And watching this while on TikTok. I mean, the irony, right? The irony. Now just TikTok has to stop dinging us because I think we keep getting restrictions and we're just out here doing the news. But I don't know if they know that this is actually like NBC. So who knows? Brave new world. Let's see. Ricky, I feel like Savannah has been following the TikTok story for years. She has been on it. Savannah is one of the best reporters on planet Earth. What's our time back?
35.
35 seconds, okay. What else? What else are you guys watching here? Hi, Terrible Maddie, how are you? Great to see you today. Let's see, all right, coming up, we've got quick headlines. 15 seconds.
20.
We're in the B block and it's 24. Okay, got it up. Here we go, in Ukraine, all right.
5, 4, 3.
Hey, welcome back. Here are some of the other headlines we are watching tonight. Brian Walsh, the Massachusetts man convicted of murdering his wife. He was sentenced to life in prison today without the possibility of parole. And earlier this week, Walsh was found guilty of first-degree murder after he dismembered and disposed of his wife Anna's body a few years ago. Walsh also got an extra 19 years for lying to the police during the investigation. And another round of Ukraine and Russia peace talks are starting tomorrow in the United States. Now, according to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, Ukrainian and U.S. negotiators are planning to meet tomorrow and Saturday. Meanwhile, a White House official confirmed to NBC News that Russia and U.S. negotiators are also meeting over the weekend in Miami. And President Trump signed an executive order today fast-tracking the reclassification of cannabis. That paves the way for the Food and Drug Administration to study its medicinal uses. The order does not make cannabis legal nationwide, but it does place marijuana in the same drug class as ketamine and testosterone. And Luigi Mangioni's pretrial hearing that has been going on for a few weeks wrapped up earlier today, but the judge is not going to rule on what evidence prosecutors can use until next year, until May, actually, of next year. This is all for Mangioni's New York trial for the killing of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Mangioni still has a federal trial ahead of him as well. And the woman in that viral Coldplay concert kiss cam controversy from July, well, she's finally speaking out. She told the New York Times that she had a couple of high noons and she made a bad decision to dance and act inappropriately with her boss, Andy Bryan. Bryan was the CEO of the company Astronomer, while the woman was the head of HR, who now says she gave up her career for that, and that's the price she chose to pay. And today, off the coast of Venezuela, more U.S. fighter jets taken to the skies, appearing to fly very, very close to the city of Caracas. Now, we don't know what their mission was, but we do know that they made no secret about their flight patterns. Take a look at this. This is from the publicly available flight tracking site Flight Radar 24 around noon today. At least 4 U.S. fighter jets right here. This is Caracas. These are 2 fighter jets. There's 2 more there, and they were doing circles for quite some time. All of that within minutes of Venezuela's capital city, and it comes as the Trump administration has threatened a military blockade of sanctioned oil tankers aimed at stopping the flow of oil and money to the Venezuelan government. Joining us now is NBC News political analyst Carlos Curbelo. Carlos, this oil blockade, how long can the Maduro regime stay in power if his access to a lot of their biggest exports is completely cut off?
That's right, Gotti. Think about what the Trump administration is doing. They're literally choking the Venezuelan regime. 2 main sources of revenue for the regime, oil and drugs, and both of those are being targeted directly by the United States military. So this is going to be a wait-and-see game for a while, but every day will become harder and harder for Maduro to stay in power, to keep those generals that protect him and that allow him to stay in power happy, because those generals are content for now, or have been for many years, because they're making a lot of money along with the Maduro family. So as long as the money's flowing, everything's fine. But you can imagine that with oil and drugs being targeted the way the U.S. military is doing right now, that money is not flowing the way it used to all of those generals.
Yeah, Maduro says that they're not going to become a colony. I've read that the Venezuelan military may or may not be trying to escort some of those oil tankers. Given the seizure that we saw with the U.S. Black Hawk helicopters or the Coast Guard swooping in, and then also the video that we were just playing of those 26 lethal strikes on boats, how does that work? I mean, can Venezuela's military, I don't know, make sure that some of these oil vessels go through, or is that just a recipe for disaster?
Well, look, it's the only thing that Maduro can say. I can tell you, Gotti, sure, Venezuela has a military. It is no match at all, not even close to the deployment that the United States military has in the Caribbean basin. Venezuelan military officials are not going to risk their lives to confront American assets in the area. Maduro is doing the best he can to buy time, to try to negotiate, to see if maybe there's a way that he can dissuade President Trump from continuing this campaign. But it seems very unlikely to me that anything is going to work. The president is hell-bent on seeing a new regime take over in Venezuela. And I don't think any of these operations are going to stop until the United States is satisfied with that outcome.
I mean, that's clearly the president's goal, but when we're talking about like all of the United States, like one of Trump's promises was that he wasn't going to start a war. He said, I'm not going to start a war, I'm going to stop wars. Like, how does an intervention in Venezuela play with the MAGA base right now?
Well, this is definitely not consistent with the America First strategy. I mean, this is a president who said during his first term, and then when he ran for this second term successfully, he said that the United States was going to focus inward, that we weren't going to be spending resources overseas, trying to intervene in different countries. This is clearly an exception to that policy. There's an inconsistency here. Some Republicans in Congress have pointed that out. But for now, Gotti, it really does seem that the president's base is okay with this, that they're sticking with him, that they aren't being critical towards him over this. So for now, I think the president is on some pretty solid footing. And, of course, this has the support of a lot of Hispanic Americans, particularly Venezuelan and Cuban Americans throughout the country.
Interesting. Carlos Corbello, really appreciate your insight. Thank you. And coming up, from A to K, a look at how the return of the K-shaped economy is impacting families across the country. And it's all based on income.
2 minutes. Just see reverse.
2 minutes, 2 minutes. All right, we could talk for 2 minutes. That's a lot to cover. The Venezuela escalations. Let's see, most Chileans want Maduro out. A lot of Venezuelans have moved here in the last 8 years. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, there is not much love for Maduro, and yet there is a lot of concern over tactics, I think.
90.
Let's see. What? Wow. Interesting. Okay. Catching up on all your comments. I love listening and seeing what you guys have to say about all this. So coming up, we're going to be talking about the economy. It's what the president was talking about, kind of, last night in his address, and touting his what he says are all of his accomplishments. And so we are going to be talking about this thing called K economy, apparently. I'm going to be honest, I have a lot to learn here because economics, math, not my strong suit. This dress, this is not a dress. But I know what you're talking about, Terrible Maddie. I know what you're talking about.
30.
Yes, I am. Are you celebrating SML? Except for we're going to be working next week. off Christmas Day, but I think we're going to be hosting nightly news too, so stay tuned for that. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do all this, though. All right, here we go. 10 seconds.
10. Five, four, three.
Hey, welcome back. If you've got very young kids at home, you know, teaching them about the ABCs, that's like pretty easy, right? But math, that is a different story, especially if you're talking about this thing called the K-shaped economy. And it basically has to do with the spending power of families depending on their income. NBC's Christine Romans has more on what we should know.
It's the buzzword on Wall Street.
On the K-shaped economy.
Something that economists call the K-shaped economy.
This economics report was brought to you by the letter K.
But what does it mean for Main Street? A K-shaped economy means some families are trying to find value where they can. A struggle Peyton Riley from Kentucky knows all too well.
We're buying, so I try to find the best deals when I can.
With a big family, she knows where to get the best bang for her buck.
It's getting harder. Definitely with 3 kids. I just think Walmart has a selection for all types of consumers. I think like what your budget is, you can find it there.
And the proof is in the purchasing, according to Heather Long, the chief economist at Navy Federal Credit Union. She's tracked this trend for the last year.
The Costco economy is back. We can see this massive shift to shopping more and more at Costco and Amazon and Walmart, as even people who earn $100,000 a year are really trying to make every dollar count.
Her team tells us they've seen a 7% jump in spending at wholesale retailers since 2024. So Peyton is not alone. The stress of shopping putting a strain on many consumers, all a factor of this K-shaped economy. So what does that even mean?
The K-shaped economy means that some Americans are doing just fine. They're in the top of the K, their incomes are rising, their spending is rising, they're living la vida loca.
And then there's the bottom of the K.
And that's obviously going in a different direction.
It's where the bottom 80% of consumers are just trying to keep up with price inflation, according to the latest data from Moody's Analytics. Meanwhile, the top 10% of that K-shape, their spending is up by almost 4.5% between 2019 and 2025, actually outpacing the rate of consumer price inflation at 2.5% during the same period of time. Moody's data shows the top 10% of earners account for almost half of all spending and is up by 36% since the early 90s. The big question, can it last?
A K-shaped economy is not sustainable in the medium to long run, and it's definitely not desirable.
With apologies to Sesame Street, sometimes economic analysis sounds like alphabet soup. There's the V-shaped economy, a sharp decline and a rapid recovery, similar to what happened during the COVID-19 pandemic, where the recession only lasted about 2 months, the economy and the stock market bouncing back quickly after that. Or the classic U-shape, where the damage of a recession leaves consumers treading water for a while, like the 1973 oil crisis and stock market crash, leading to an era known as stagflation in the 70s. Or an L-shaped economy, where the recovery stagnates for months, like what many of us saw during the Great Recession of 2008, when employment levels took years to return to normal. The implications of a K-shaped economy catching the attention of Fed Chair Jerome Powell at the Federal Reserve's last meeting of the year.
How sustainable is this so-called K-shaped economy, and what are the Fed's thoughts on whether that's a risk going forward?
So we do, through our vast network of contacts and just through our observation of what's going on in the economy, we hear about this a lot. As how sustainable it is, I don't know. Most of the consumption does happen by people who have more means.
Look, what's going to happen in 2026, whether there will be a recession, depends on the spending of the top 20%.
Christine Romans, NBC News.
Christine Romans, thank you. And coming up in the future of everything, it is an exciting 24 hours ahead as 3i Atlas is expected to get as close as it's ever been to Earth. Avi Loeb is going to join us to break it all down.
2 minutes. Position
All right.
B.
What do you guys think? Anybody have telescopes? Anybody going to be watching 3i Atlas? Anybody still think that it might be not a comet? Let's see. Hi again. Hi. No. Sesame Street. Mug time. This is our mug. I love this mug. It's got all my coffee. We don't wash it though, do we, Mike? It tastes better when we don't wash it.
Rinse it out every night.
It's delicious. Today is what, green tea? Something good. How's my baby? Great. He's not a baby anymore. He's a big boy. Thanks for asking though. Let's see. My nephew and my mom talk about it a lot. 3i Atlas, really? Yeah. 3i Atlas. Let's see. I think it's.
1 minute.
I think it's going to remain a mystery. That's what I think. If I was a betting man, I would say we're not going to have a definite explanation. Tina, though, aliens. I mean, hopefully they're nice aliens. Doesn't seem like they're super good at navigating in, like, maybe they are. Maybe they're using the, perihelion and all that good stuff to do the gravity assists, and they're just taking their time in cruise control. Who knows?
30 back.
30 back. So Gen X and Gen Alpha. Oh, tell me more, Andrea. What?
20.
Here we go. 20 seconds. Oops, forgot to do this.
10 to animation. 5 to animation. 3.
Hey, welcome back. In tonight's Future of Everything, the countdown is on for the date astronomers have been circling for months.
Everyone keeps asking me, when can we see 3i Atlas?
It will pass near to Earth this week, giving scientists the chance to study it. The closest it's going to get to Earth is about 270 million kilometers away.
This is the closest it's going to be to Earth. So we should be getting some really great, amazing shots now.
I mean, that is the dream, right? Tomorrow, December 19th, that is the moment that 3i Atlas is making its closest pass to Earth on its trip through our solar system. Right now, telescopes all over the world, big professional observatories, backyard astronomers, they are getting ready to capture fresh images, hopefully of the most talked about, the most hyped up, the most mysterious interstellar object we may have ever seen. And just as it swings past us, the list of weirdness surrounding 3i Atlas, it keeps growing. Astrophysicist Avi Loeb now counts 15 separate anomalies, from its odd trajectory to its strange chemistry to that odd sun-facing anti-tail and the jets we still can't completely explain. Even NASA's new boss seems to be paying very close attention. Watch.
I mean, I'm day one on the job. I'm looking forward to getting the brief on it and what we can potentially learn from it. But this is why everyone is so enamored with space. I mean, this is why we look up at the night sky and imagine the possibilities is for moments like this.
And let's get straight into it with the director of Harvard's Institute for Theory and Computation, Dr. Avi Loeb. Dr. Loeb, great to see you. Welcome back. Starting with this new anomaly here, what are you seeing?
Well, there appears to be a tightly collimated jet that was wobbling around the rotation axis of 3i Atlas starting in July, and it appears to exist also nowadays, this week, when the 3i Atlas was imaged, tightly collimated in the direction of the sun, opposite to what we usually see in comets, a tail. This is an anti-tail. And the interesting coincidence is that the rotation axis of the object is directed towards the sun, and the chance of that happening at random is 0.5%. So there is a permanent day side and a permanent night side for 3i Atlas, and they switch roles once 3i Atlas moves past the sun. And why would there be a pair of jets that are tightly collimated within 8 degrees? And why would the rotation axis be aligned with the direction of the sun? These are not clear. These are mysteries. And the coincidence of the geometry of this object is 1 in 4 billion. It's really a small probability when you multiply all these geometric coincidences.
A coincidence, I mean, we keep saying coincidence, but do you still think that it's a very strong likelihood now that it might be artificial? And will tomorrow be the day that we can tell whether this is artificial or not?
No, I still think most likely it is a natural object, but we don't fully understand how a jet can be collimated from a pocket of ice that gets illuminated by sunlight. You would get a hemisphere of gas coming out of it. You know, there are things that are not clear about the nature of this object. So I still want to keep the technological option alive until we figure out what's going on. And hopefully over the day, the 19th of December, we will learn much more about it, because it's also a new moon, so there wouldn't be moonlight during that night, and there would be hundreds of observatories around the globe that could look at it, and as well as the Webb telescope.
It will be your Christmas for sure this year. Are you going to be out there watching it with the telescope?
Well, I usually jog before sunrise. Closest approach to Earth would be 1 a.m. Eastern time, but a couple of hours later, I will be out there looking at the sky and hoping to see something. It would be difficult with the naked eye. One needs a telescope of about 20 centimeters in diameter or more. But I will obviously watch out for my colleagues taking the data and try to learn more about the nature of this object. It's a lot of fun when there is something in the sky that we don't fully understand.
Yeah, that's what science is all about. Discovery. Avi Loeb, we really appreciate your insight, and we will be checking back with you to see what comes next. And turning back to NASA, the future of the agency is now in the hands of Jared Isaacman, the private astronaut turned NASA administrator. Tom Costello spoke with Isaacman about the unfolding space race back to the moon and beyond. Watch this.
But has the U.S. now fallen behind China in preparing to land astronauts on the moon by the end of the decade?
Well, Tom, it's great to see you again. And you're absolutely correct. We are faced with another space race. But I have to tell you, I'm pretty excited. This is my first day on the job. I was literally just sworn in, and I'm in the Oval Office with the President of the United States as he signs a national space policy that's probably the most significant policy and commitment to our endeavors in space since the Kennedy era. I mean, not just a return to the moon to plant the flag and the footsteps, but actually to build the infrastructure. I mean, specifically a lunar base. I mean, keep in mind, we won the first space race. We've already been there. It's been a half century, but we are going back. To your point, Artemis 2, we're just a matter of weeks away, maybe a couple months before American astronauts fly around the moon again for the first time in a half century. But we have a clear path right now that the president just established. Go back to the moon, build the infrastructure, establish the lunar base, realize the scientific, economic, and national security value, and then we're going to look even further out there as we plan for Mars and beyond.
So to that end, why is it so important for America to go back to the moon? As you point out, the United States has been there 50 years ago or so. Is it all about establishing the footprint or the lunar base to be able to then go on to Mars? Do we need the moon to go to Mars?
Well, I think yes. There's a lot that goes to that question. It's a very good one. First, I believe it's fulfilling a promise to the American people. You know, every president for 35 years has declared that we should return to the moon and establish a pathway to Mars. Over $100 billion in taxpayer funds have gone to it. But it wasn't until President Trump, during his first term, brought back American spaceflight capability to the United States instead of via Russia and created the Artemis program. And now here we are, where we're just a matter of weeks away before we return. So we owe it to the American people to deliver on that promise. But second, when we get there and we establish that infrastructure, there is scientific and economic value for being on the lunar surface. Helium-3, for example, has the promise of being a more efficient source for fusion power, which there's already substantial investments being made in here on Earth. There's not a lot of it on the moon, but there's certainly more on the moon than there is here on Earth. You know, when we think about sources of energy, they can shift the balance of power here on Earth. We don't want to lose sight of that. We want to get that right. And for sure, it is an opportunity farther into space for us to build on our capabilities to prepare for the next grand endeavor, which should be American astronauts on Mars, planting the stars and stripes, as President Trump declared earlier this year.
Okay, give us a realistic timeline, because if you talk to Elon Musk, he says, oh, we'll be there in 3 years. What is a realistic timeline to actually land humans on Mars?
Well, I mean, right now we're going to hit our near-term priorities that are in the national space policy. Within the next 3 years, we are going to land American astronauts again on the moon, but this time with the infrastructure to stay. I can't emphasize that enough. But in parallel, you have commercial industry building reusable heavy lift launch vehicles that can send mass at a velocity that can escape Earth's gravitational influence, whether it's going to the moon or Mars. That rapid reusability that Blue Origin, SpaceX, Stoke, I mean, a number of commercial providers are investing in is going to be foundational for future missions to Mars. In addition, this space policy the president just signed calls for a focus on nuclear. Nuclear in space, whether that be surface power on the moon or propulsion. And that is going to be a key enabling capability for commercial industry. It's only what NASA, the best and brightest, are capable of working on to help set us up for those future Mars missions.
You've got a pretty big to-do list there at NASA, but the budget has remained pretty flat, especially compared to inflation. So what are your priorities, and can you get there based on the budget you've been given?
I mean, you know, NASA right now, whether it's $25 billion or $20 billion, that's an awful lot of money coming into the agency every single year. We've got the best and brightest that are capable of taking on numerous challenging endeavors, the near impossible simultaneously. This is our opportunity to recommit to grand scientific endeavors to unlock the secrets of the universe. There's a big call out of that in the president's space policy. It's the opportunity to go back to the moon, establish the infrastructure there, and then makes investments in the future technology like nuclear to set up for Mars missions. I think with the resources that are provided, the commitment from the president here in the White House with that space policy, we're going to be able to get the job done.
Are you confident, though, that SpaceX will be the ones who land Americans on the moon? You know, Secretary Duffy essentially said we got to reopen the bidding here and allow Jeff Bezos and company to again bid on landing people on the moon, because the concern is SpaceX has fallen behind and you're in a race with China.
Yeah, so it's a good question, Tom. I mean, first of all, both SpaceX and Blue Origin are already under contract to build us lunar landers. There's no question about that. Both are making great progress. I mean, just a month or two ago, Blue Origin launched their second New Glenn vehicle. It's a heavy lift, reusable launch vehicle, and they caught the booster on the first try. I mean, it absolutely fantastic work. We've all seen SpaceX catch their Starships. You know, basically the skyscraper of a launch vehicle with chopsticks. It's incredibly impressive. We have the absolute right contractors, the right commercial companies supporting NASA in this great endeavor. But I'll tell you, they're not alone. This is the healthiest launch market we've ever seen in the history of America's space program. You've got companies like Stoke, Rocket Lab, ULA. I mean, I can go on and on. They're all looking to contribute to this endeavor.
And fascinating interview there. And Tom Costello did ask him if aliens existed, and you know, the new NASA administrator says they have not visited him. So there's that. Tom, thank you. What you're looking at right there, if you're a Burqueño, you know what's going on. Albuquerque's mayor making a cameo in Apple's TV hit show Pluribus. We're going to talk to Mayor Tim Keller right after this. But first, you got to see this. It is the countdown to the countdown. The giant 2026 numbers, they have arrived earlier today in Times Square. They're going to light up at midnight when the ball drops on New Year's Eve next week. But if you're in New York, you can take pictures with those numbers way before then. We'll be right back. All right, there we go. More space news. I can't get enough of the space news. Are we out on the knock? Are you guys staying? Are we playing all the way through, or are we playing this one through the knock? Okay, got it. All right, sounds good. Thanks, everybody. Okay, so we So we pre-recorded that, and we haven't figured out how to route our pre-records into this show that we have on NBC News Now simul-streaming. So if you want to watch the rest of the show, we can't do it with me, but you can jump on NBC News Now on, I don't know, YouTube or Samsung, turn on a television, watch the stay tuned version without the ability for us to just chat. I know it's not going to be as cool, but if you want to watch Mayor Tim Keller and the Pluribus stuff, it's worth it. It was a good interview. More space news. Don't end the live. I gotta go. I got it on TV. Yes, Tina. Wait, Tina, do you watch both? Do you watch like the TV old school one and then this? That is pretty cool if you do. But you were always so far ahead of everybody. And I saw that you're shopping for your 2-year-old and 4-year-old. What are you getting your 2-year-old and 4-year-old? Because I think I'm getting my 2-year-old some Thomas the Train stuff, and then my 4-year-old, jeez, I mean, I don't know. She wants some like real expensive stuff. American Girl doll. Oh, that is like not K economy, you know? So it depends on if my 4-year-old is napping. Wait, your 4-year-old still naps? Are you the luckiest person on planet Earth? Anyway, I do need to go. Gabby Cat. Oh, that's a good idea. And Bluey for the 2-year-old. Gabby Cat. DJ Catnap, I'm telling you. Okay, let's, you guys watch me over on the other side if you want, or spend time with the fam, I don't know. But maybe tomorrow we will see you guys here, and then we'll be doing this, I think, next week. And I really can't tell you how much I appreciate you guys watching on these streams. We've got quite the little hangout here. So talk to you guys tomorrow. See ya.